Hello, I'm back with Antifragile. It's day 4. I think my call. I will start trading with setting a timer. Okay. Um, I don't know. Um, the journey to this idea of antifragility was, if anything, non-linear. Um, I suddenly realized one day fragility, which had been lacking a technical definition, could be expressed as what does not like volatility, and that what does not like volatility does not like randomness, uncertainty, disorder, errors, stressors, etc. Think of anything fragile, say objects in your living room, such as the glass frame, the television set, or even better, the china in the cupboards. If you label them fragile, then you necessarily want them to be left alone in peace, quiet, order, and predictability. A fragile object would not possibly benefit from an earthquake or the visit of your hyperactive nephew. Further, everything that does not like volatility, does not like stressors, harm, chaos, events, disorder, unforeseen consequences, uncertainty, and critically time. And anti-fragility flows sort of from this explicit definition of fragility. It likes volatility at all. It also takes time, and there is a powerful and helpful link to non-linearity. Everything non-linear in response is either fragile or anti-fragile to a certain source of randomness. The strangest thing is that this obvious property that anything fragile hits volatility and vice versa has been sitting completely outside the scientific and philosophical discourse. Completely, and the study of sensitivity of things to volatility is the strange business specialty in which I spent most of my adult life. 2 decades. I know it is a strange specialty. I promise to explain later. My focus in that profession has been um, on identifying items that love volatility or hate volatility. So all I had to do was expand the ideas from the financial domain in which I had been focused to the broader notion of decision making under uncertainty across various fields from political science to medicine to dinner plans. And in that strange profession of people who work with volatility, there were two types. First category, academics, report writers, and commentators who study future events and write books and papers, and second category, practitioners who, instead of studying future events, try to understand how things react to volatility. But practitioners are usually too busy practicing to write books, articles, papers, speeches, equations, theories, and get honored by highly constipated and honorable members of academics. The difference between two categories is central. As we saw, it is much easier to understand if something is harmed by volatility and is fragile than try to focus harmful events such as these overchased black swans. But only practitioners or people who do things tend to spontaneously get to the point. The rather happy disorder family. One technical comment. We keep saying that fragility and antifragility mean potential gain or harm from exposure to something related to volatility. What is that something? Simply membership in the extended disorder family. The extended disorder family or cluster 1. Uncertainty, variability, imperfect, incomplete knowledge, chance, chaos, volatility, disorder, entropy, time, the unknown, randomness, turmoil, stature, error, the dispersion of outcomes, unknowledge. It happens that uncertainty, disorder, and the unknown are completely equivalent in their effect, and the fragile systems benefit to some degree from, and the fragile is penalized by almost all of them, even if you have to find them in separate buildings of the university campuses. And some philosopher who has never taken real risks in his life or owes never had a life would inform you that they are clearly not the same thing. Why item 9 time? Time is functionally similar to volatility. The more time, the more events, the more disaster. Consider that if you can suffer limited harm and are anti-fragile to small errors, time brings the kind of errors or reverse errors that end up benefiting you. This is simply what your grandmother calls experience. The fragile breaks with time. This makes this book my central work. I have had only one master idea. It's time taken to the next step, to its next step, the last step. This book being more like a big jump. I am reconnected to my practical self, my soul of a practitioner, as this is a merger of my entire history as practitioner and volatility specialist combined with my intellectual and philosophical interests in randomness and uncertainty, which had previously taken separate paths. My writings are not standalone essays on specific topics with beginnings, ends, and expiration dates. Rather, they are non overlapping chapters from that central idea, a main corpus focused on uncertainty, randomness, probability, disorder, and what to do in a world we don't understand, a world with unseen elements and properties, the random and the complex, that is, decision making under opacity. The corpus is called Inserto and is constituted so far of a trilogy plus philosophical and technical addenda. The rule is that distance between a random chapter of one book, say Antifragile, and another random chapter of another, say Fooled by Randomness, should be similar to the one between chapters of a long book. I have been reading for decades. Just see how much time I have left. Okay, I still have 1 minute. So this said the rule is that the distance between a random chapter of one book, say Anti-Fragile, and another random chapter of another, say full by randomness, should be similar to the one between chapters of a long book. The rule allows the corpus to cross domains by shifting across science, philosophy, business, psychology, literature, and autobiographical segments without lapsing into promiscuity. So, the relationship of this book to the Black Swan would be as follows. In spite of the chronology and the fact that this book takes the Black Swan idea to its natural and prescriptive conclusion, Antifragile would be the main volume, and the Black Swan its backup of sorts, and a theoretical one, and perhaps even its junior appendix. Why? What is it? Uh, main volume and Black Swan its backup of sorts, a theoretical one, perhaps even its junior appendix. Why? Because the Black Swan and his predecessor, fooled by randomness, were written to convince us of a dire situation and worked hard at it. This one starts from the position that one does not need convincing that a. Black swans dominate society and history. People, because of exposed rationalization, think themselves capable of understanding them. B. As a consequence, we don't quite know what's going on, particularly under severe non-linearities. So we can get to practical business right away. Okay, so my reading is done for today, and this is a very interesting book I am reading. This is a continuation of the very same idea that Taleb talks about in his series in Sarto, how to live in a world that we don't understand and how to do things without not knowing them and do them better. The idea of anti-fragility is going through whatever worst possible can happen and coming back or thriving through that all the bad things that are happening in any domains, whether it's internal or external. And the idea of anti-fragility is kind of a very aggressive idea. That means it advocates about not only about going through the worst, it also advocates about coming back very strongly from that worst possible outcome. And I really love the concept of anti-fragility. And Taleb talks about the property of events or the organization of the book, how it organized, how it connects with his predecessor books like Full by Randomness, Black Swan, and currently the third on the series, Anti-Fragile, and the fourth, I guess, Skin in the Game. And obviously, it comes from theory, and he talks about both theory and practice, like how tinkers or engineers like me tinker about things and see how a thing goes forward with the accurate knowledge or validated learning from the tinkering process, as well as theoreticians how they are bullshitting the world that theory comes first. Anyways, both theory and practice should go hand in hand, and this is one of the very important things that I like about Vipassana camps. Initially, you are just um, take into a practice of 12 hours meditation, then end of the day you have been asked to monitor like what you have done during the day, what was the experience about, and how it might help you. Anyways, I have been experiencing tremendous amount of explosive thoughts these days, which I am trying to take control. I mean, I'm not reacting onto that, but which is making me suffer. And I think so far from last 4 days, this reading habit was one of the keystone I am thinking to introducing one keystone at a week. Like I've introduced reading this week, and hopefully next week I will introduce something more. So thanks again for listening. I will come back tomorrow.